hopefully it's not confusing. Absolutely. I'm not a doctor, but we'll take a look. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of May 26 to order. We have no public hearing today. A couple of real quick announcements. The first one is that the number one priority in the community right now is the sewage lagoon and getting it back up and running the way it's supposed to be. There is a report later on, so I won't go into it right now, because I know there'll be some more talk and a resolution coming later in the meeting. This is Bike to Work Week, and I'm happy to say that I'm participating every day, and people are asking me if I'm actually biking up the hill home and not stopping on the way. I am making it all the way up the hill, and I'm not even kicking in that little electric motor on my bike that I actually had for the week. But it's actually encouraging to see how many people are participating, and we've got lots of people that are taking the opportunity to participate, and we have another community who will remain nameless that we are going to have to teach them a lesson on participation in Bike to Work Week. Tomorrow our 2014 annual report is being made available to the public. This has the 2014 financial report in it. It also has this council's 2015-2016 goals and objectives, and just to give people a heads up that that's going to be available. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor English, Councillor Nixon, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And I also need a motion to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of May the 12th. Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Duke. All those in favor? Motion is carried. As well as adopting the minutes of the special council meeting of May the 14th. Councillor Nixon and Councillor Orlando. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Is there any business arising from any of those minutes? Anybody would like to bring up? Okay, we have Interior Health as two delegations today, and Julie, are you up first?
I certainly am.
So from the Acute Health Services Site Manager, Julie Lowes.
Thank you. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting us here today to give you an update from Interior Health. So for those of you that might not have met me before, I'm Health Services and Site Manager of Victoria Hospital. And I have beside me here Kirsty Hill, who's the Health Service Administrator for Community Integrated Health Services. And then Betty will be coming on board shortly. So moving on to our first slide, we just wanted to share with you some of the quick facts about Interior Health in terms of the population that we serve, 742,000 there, with a $1.9 billion annual budget, serving 58 municipalities, 7 regional hospitals, 55 First Nations, and 95 unincorporated places. We cover a large area, as you can see, 216,000 square kilometres. So we've used this kind of way of sharing the information just to illustrate the scope and reach, certainly of Interior Health Services. And we deliver programmes and services to residents across BC's Southern Interior, which go beyond what we think of as healthcare services typically delivered in a hospital. Interior Health also offers a wide variety of other important services, including health prevention and promotion, home and community care, residential care, mental health and substance use, environmental safety and public health protection, lab and diagnostic imaging services, and much more. As I touched on earlier there, in terms of regional contacts, should any of the council ever have any questions for us, there's myself based at the hospital, then Kirsty, the Community Health Services Administrator based out of Salmon. Deborah Smith oversees a number of sites, and she is based out of the Kamloops area. and Betty is down in Vernon and again covers a number of communities. So Betty will be doing a presentation after all that Kirsty and I will be doing to give you an insight as to the Healthy Communities Initiative and all that, the work that we've been doing on that with the community. So I'll hand over to Kirsty now. So she has a few slides.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us here today. This slide will give you a sort of a visual presentation of the refreshed Ministry of Health strategy. You can see across the top, starting with staying healthy, getting better, is more of a continuum of care which goes through living with illness or disability and coping with end of life. It's not a straight trajectory, you know, we all can go back and forth along that, but the pieces underneath will show the pieces that are important in this strategy. You know, the goals around supporting the health and well-being of our citizens, a system of responsive and effective health care services, and ensuring value for money. The priorities are listed in the centerpiece, and Julie touched on some of those around prevention and health promotion, primary and community care. Those are programs that fall under my portfolio, but certainly there's other pieces there that are equally part of that. And then the enabling strategies. How do we get to this whole picture? How do we make things work? Who's accountable? Quality is important, and certainly budget management and efficiency. So when we think of healthcare, we often think of acute care or hospital care, but there's a shift, and we're really working hard to shift how people think and how we provide programs to move from a reactive system of care to one that's more proactive. You know, hospitals can be busy. I know you've got a small hospital here, but as Julie can attest, we're steadily seeing more pressures and more need for those kind of services. But we want to make sure that those beds are available for those who actually need them. So a big focus of the work through the ministry and our services are to support people at risk of chronic disease early on, even before the disease process begins, help them manage at home and reduce the need for that hospital care. So just have a few stats around that, chronic disease rates. And you'll see the blue rates are for Revelstoke, the orange is for the rest of Interior Health, and the gray shows the provincial rates. So you'll see that Revelstoke actually does very well. It's either on par with the rest of Interior Health or better. So it would seem that Revelstoke is a community that attracts typically healthy, active individuals regardless of age. And that's reflected in these kind of stats around chronic disease. However, we know that chronic disease affects a lot of people, and I just want to give you an idea of some of the work that's going on. An example of a targeted program through the Ministry of Health is called Breathe Well. And it's a program with respiratory therapists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, provides intensive therapy to patients with severe chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And if you know someone with a chronic lung disease, you know that they often are reliant on medication and will frequent the ER, the emergency department, for their care. So through a Breathe Well program where you have an intensive case management, you've got that team that works with the patients and their families to increase their self-management skills, teach them how to use their medication, how to have an exercise program, and what to do when they get into crisis, so that they have the skills and the abilities to possibly avert that visit to the hospital. In terms of budget and efficiency, you can see that the drivers around that, it costs us $26 a day to provide care in the home, over $1,000 per day in hospital, and $270 per day in residential care. So if we can keep people at home and provide effective care there, that's the way that we should be doing it. You may have noticed on the first slide with the continuum in the strategy that patient-focused care is really important, and we know from this program that 100% of the clients, even though it's a small cohort, they recommend the services and they find that kind of care valuable. So currently, the programs of this type have been on a pilot project. We in community integration are tasked right now to say, how do we expand the base of clients that we see, the patients? How do we sustain it and how do we spread it so that more people can benefit from it? So that just gives you an example of one of the types. Other ones are focused on frail elderly, those with chronic and persistent mental health and substance use, and so in a similar sort of model. Nurse practitioners are another way that we're trying to expand how we deliver primary care to give access to people who don't have physicians. Now, Revelstoke actually has a really good base of physicians, and you are fortunate as well to have an NP, a nurse practitioner, Anne-Marie Gill, working out of Queen Victoria Hospital. But nurse practitioners will increase access to primary health care services for high needs population. It is funded through Ministry of Health. Anne-Marie's positioned through what's called an NP for BC program. So she's an employee of Interior Health and is funded appropriately through there. But we certainly work with partnerships in acute and residential to provide her space and equipment and supplies to do her work. Anne-Marie's also obtained some extra education in palliative or end-of-life care, so she has a focus in that in the service that she delivers. She's able to work out of her office at the hospital or provide home visits. So we have in Interior Health over 40 MPs and certainly are working in different models. We have one in Sorrento and who works in a very unique community clinic model and is serving a population who doesn't have physicians. So those are just some of the ways that we're working to expand the ways we deliver care in a more efficient and sustainable manner in community programs. So I'm going to hand this back to Julie now.
Okay. So slide here just about cardiac surgery, and just to share with the group in terms of this is a regional programme that benefits clients across the whole of Interior Health. The first cardiac surgery was performed on December 2012. It doesn't seem that long ago, but time flies. And as at the end of January, this January, 1,100 open heart surgeries have been performed, 11 of which were Revelstoke residents. So it's great to have that more local service for sure. And surgeries are now taking place in the two renovated ORs at Kelowna General Hospital and the Interior Heart and Surgical Centre, which will be the permanent OR of the cardiac surgery programme when it opens on 28th of September of this year. So the actual Interior Health Surgical Cardiac Building will be the province's 5th cardiac critical care centre with a total of 15 operating rooms and will support over 12,000 surgeries each year across 12 different specialties. That's a super resource that's being developed. Moving on to the next slide. Some of you may be aware of HART, which stands for High Acuity Response Teams. Within Interior Health there are 4 teams. The team that we most utilise is in Kamloops, and the other teams are in Cranbrook, Penticton and Trail. So basically we work in partnership with them because obviously we're a rural hospital. There doesn't take much, big MVA crashes on the highway, multiple injuries. Our normal staffing in the ED is one family MD and an RN. So basically when we do get those situations, we now have the resource and have had for a few years now to be able to call upon HART to come to the site with their team, so we can then do the handover and the transfer to get that patient transferred to a higher level of care. So it's a great partnership that we have with BC Ambulance Services. The HART teams treat acute patients across the board in Interior Health, stabilising them so that sometimes we may be able to avoid transfer, but at other times so that they can transport them because there's a respiratory therapist that comes with them to a higher level of care. And this enables us and many other rural communities to keep their medical teams in town. So we're not then sending potentially one of our MDs, one of our nurses in the ambulance with the patient to get them to where they need to be. So that's very important in terms of supporting our local team and our local resources. And we also use the HART team as well when they come. We always use it as a learning opportunity. We do lots of teaching moments within those visits, and they come at other times as well to do updates with staff in terms of doing that quicker transfer over between the two teams. So the next slide, I kind of anticipated people would want to know a bit of an update about the helipad that we are working on in terms of design work at present. And just want to say, thank you to the city and the Infotourism Committee for supporting that design work going ahead together with the Revelstoke District Health Foundation. The design work is almost complete. I am hopeful that we will have by the end of June an estimate for the construction costs, and then we'll be able to get together with the District Health Foundation and other community groups to see how we can move that forward in terms of a fundraising campaign to raise the funds for that. So this picture here is just a conceptual picture in terms of a helipad that was done for Invermere, just to give you a sense of what it may look like. It'll be a little bit different, but the basic principles are the same. Okay. So now I'll hand you back to Kirsty, who has one or two slides to go. Oh, do you need me to open it?
Sure, if you'd like to.
Sure,
This is
no
more
problem.
about, residential care.
So residential care, unfortunately Deb Smith couldn't make it today, so we did want to just give again a quick update in terms of some of the positive staffing changes within Metcalfe Court. We now have a part-time social worker and also a part-time rehab assistant assigned to the residential cottages, which is fantastic news in terms of being able to provide those services to our residents. And lastly, the healthcare assistant course. Some of you again might have been aware that back in 2013, 2014, we did a partnership with the Okanagan College and the District Health Foundation to have a course put on locally, because one of the barriers for the hospital in terms of recruitment was it was a challenge for people to go out of town to get their training for these courses with costs of travel, accommodation, all of these things. So we got together and put together the course so that we could do it based at the hospital for their lab time, and then also at the college for their classroom work, and then all of the preceptorship time and the practicums were done in conjunction with community, with residential care and assisted living. And it worked very well. We had 12 students, 11 graduated and they're all working. We are in conversations already about trying to do another course next year with Okanagan College, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that developed again for next year. Last but not least, is an example of some of the other partnerships. Working with our hospital auxiliary and the hospital foundation. Our recent radiothon, we've raised just over $11,000 towards the replacement of ventilators, so huge thank you to the community and the support for that. So we'll be purchasing that soon with also some funds from Interior Health to complete that purchase. So that completes my presentation, and I will hand over now to questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilor Nixon?
Just one for you, Julie. Physicians in
Yes.
Revelstoke, we have very good scope of practice for our physicians. And with the auxiliary, it's one of the best auxiliaries in British Columbia, kudos to them. They buy a piece of equipment that the physicians ask for. And I understand they're waiting for some electrical upgrades in the emergency department to get a piece of equipment up and running. So you don't have to answer me today, but can you look into that? Because I'm hearing a frustration.
Yeah, I'm certainly can. There is ongoing discussions and we're trying to land on a timeline and funding for that. But yes, it is being, it has been discussed as to how we can schedule that in for the hospital.
Okay, because that's what I'm hearing, don't shoot me.
No, that's fine. That's
And the
fine.
other thing is for you, Kirstine, I've known you since you were a public health nurse. And something that council doesn't receive reports on, but we get very good reports from our fire department on fire inspections that are done. We don't seem to have any knowledge of public health inspections. If you could look into that for us and get back to us. How often do they come from Salmon Arm? What do they find in Revelstoke when they do inspections? And are we meeting the standards?
So
we're not hearing anything that's bad. But I'm wondering, is that service being met in our community by Interior Health?
And so the focus of these inspections would be like the water and health
And around
protection
food
and food.
services.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that reports out, 'cause that's a health protection, which is not within community programs, but I'll certainly find out and then
Yeah,
that
if you
too.
could, sure. And we have wonderful restaurants, but we just have
We
so
do.
many of them.
Yeah.
And we used to have a health inspector that worked out of the health unit. And I'm just wondering where that is in the big scheme of things.
Sure.
Councillor Orlando.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment that over the last few days, I've had the pleasure of visiting the hospital on a happy occasion, and wanted to say that I've had some very good comments come to me about the quality of the service that is being provided up here, so.
Thank you, I'll pass that on, I'll pass that on.
Any other comments from council? Well, then we'll move on to Betty.
Thank you.
I'll just, so your worship and council, first of all, may I congratulate almost all of you on your election to office last fall and return of, I forget your last name, Linda.
Councillor Nixon, who deserves congratulations as well.
Yes. That's what I was getting to. Yeah. Anyway, it's my pleasure, I will start my timer now. It's my pleasure to speak with you. My role is on a different end of the continuum of healthcare. Everything you've heard thus far has related to what I refer to as our sickness care system, which is taking care of us when we're already sick or have something going on. And my work involves working with local governments to address, and other key partners, to address the settings where health begins. Health begins long before we get into our healthcare system. So I love this quote by Dr. Jesse Parfit. Local governments have been key and front and center in healthy communities for years and years, starting with control of pandemics and sewage systems and the like. There's no other entity in our communities that contributes more to health and wellness, and it starts with local government. This is a well-known slide, but it's quite instructive. The bottom quadrant of royal blue is the 25% effect that is calculated where the health care system impacts health outcomes on individuals and populations. The balance of those effects are our healthy built environment, our own genetics, and most importantly, the 50% social and economic factors within which people live, learn, work, and play. So obviously things, what we call the social determinants of health, you have a lot going on here in this community to address those. There's about a dozen recognized social determinants of health, and chief among them is income. Every step up the income ladder a family or individual goes, the better their health outcomes will be. There's a strong best practice, evidence-based case that demonstrates that. One of the theories behind the BC Healthy Communities Initiative, I mean, it's been around forever. I'm sure when many of us were kids, we did participation and we had badges that we earned in school and really focused our attention on being healthy. We've kind of engineered health out of our community environments and out of some of our activities. And sadly, our expenditures in health care or sickness care show that. Roughly, I hear between 48 and 52 cents on my and your tax dollars goes to our sickness care system. A fraction of that does in fact go to health promotion and things like immunization and such. The vast majority is our sickness care system. And then correspondingly, there's fewer and fewer dollars for the rest of the very, very important work that needs to be done in our province. I believe right now, local government gets about 8 cents on every tax dollar. So over a generation is the goal for healthy communities. It took us at least a generation to get as ill as we are, and it'll probably take a generation to improve our health and wellness, where we're literally integrating physical activity, healthy eating, and all of the factors that keep us well into daily life. Right now I do things like drive my car to the gym. Wouldn't it be better if there was ways that I could integrate that into daily life? So this is the philosophy where the healthcare system and interior health, it's our job to provide excellent health care or sickness care. There's no way that the health authority on our own can impact or address those factors that keep us well. Health happens well before we get into the sickness care system. So Interior Health responded to the Ministry of Health directive and encouragement to have a focus on healthy communities. There are a total of 4 of us to work with 58 local governments in interior health, and we're really here to stimulate, catalyze, support the excellent work already underway. Nobody's pretending that local governments have not already been addressing health and wellness. We just want to support that and enable that to be as successful as possible. The previous council agreed, following a presentation I offered, to partner with Interior Health and our Healthy Communities Initiative for the long term to improve health and wellness. And this letter was sent subsequent to my presentation to let you know it's not a legally binding agreement. It's not, I always quip that it's more like going steady rather than being married. We just agree to walk together for the long term and work together and complement each other to move forward to address this, this issue. So what's happening here in Revelstoke? Tons and tons and tons of the work that has been done in this community already addresses health and wellness. And chief among those projects include those coming from your social development office coordinator and the committee members of the Healthcare Advisory or Council Committee on Healthcare. Those programs like poverty reduction, substance use, addressing food security and the like all contribute. So those are fantastic. IH has a number of staff who have issue expertise that are available to be consultants and guides or assistants to share that work with you. And at some point in the future, I'd love an opportunity to convene a meeting with staff and our team of experts that may begin a conversation to move forward on next steps. But having said that, I've handed out a copy of your Healthy Community Report authored by Jill Zacharias, and which I led a scan analysis workshop with a number of IH folks, well, it was sometime in 2014, and there's been priorities set and work is proceeding in that regard. So I want to, again, give kudos to your community for what you already have underway, and thank you for that. Lastly, I have a unique role. I'm based on UBCO's campus, so I do my IH job from a pretty optimal setting, whereby I'm able to leverage the considerable expertise on UBC's campus in support of Healthy Communities initiatives. And so we have student projects, I know you've benefited from those already, as well as our current community-based research project, which is around living wage, which is a plank of your whole poverty reduction strategy. So it wasn't my last slide, I lied. I just want to encourage and thank you for your consideration of broadening the mandate of your advisory committee on healthcare to consider expanding it to focus on health and well-being. We hope at some point, whether it's this committee or another, that we can embed ongoing concerted action somewhere in your policy language. So if we're all gone, there will still be an ongoing commitment to this, what we call upstream healthy communities work. So in the short term, we try to make the healthy choice the easy choice for individuals, and long-term generational change is to address these broad determinants of health. So I've gone a little over time, but that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions should you have them.
Any questions from Councilor Nixon?
I sit on the Health Committee, Betty, and we've talked. Just one of the things that you're talking about is broadening the view of council around healthcare. And what the community citizens have invested in is the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan.
Yes.
And I think that worldview is reflected in there around healthcare. And I know the staff are trying to find a way to do a reflection on the ICSP and bring back a report to council, hopefully in the fall, around what's going on with the goals and objectives. of a plan that was done by the citizens.
Right. I was actually, had the pleasure of attending one of your events, and it was an incredibly impressive community consultation process, extremely thorough. So I think it's really important to honor and acknowledge that citizen input. And so whatever place or way that there could be some kind of integration and not duplication is best. So thank you for that comment.
Any other comments from council? Councilor Rolando.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a broad question, Betty. The city, as well as the community, is doing a lot to address health, as we always try to do. But in terms of the city itself and what council can do, what are some of the broadest directions that have the most impact, that are sort of contemporary happening this day and age?
Well, there's a number of things. Looking at things, and forgive me, I don't exactly have in my head exactly what you have in place, but things like smoke-free spaces impact everybody, patios, beaches, informed dining. For example, you could work with your restaurant partners and try to get menu selections that are coded as healthy and that kind of thing. Locally available healthy food, which I think you have considerable action underway on that. Looking at continuing your healthy built environment planning with a health lens to ensure, and again, I believe with your age-friendly community initiative, you've looked at things like walkable communities, or what we call active transportation, curb cuts, sidewalks that can be managed by wheelchairs, people on bicycles, etc., safe lanes for cycling. So basically, how do your people move in your community? Is it easy for people to move? And there's all kinds of public awareness campaigns. We could be encouraging people to park as far away from the building that they need to as possible as a health strategy, right? Just one idea. We tend to be so consumed with our car culture, right? So how do we kind of look at that and turn that on our head and go, maybe we don't need more parking. Maybe we need to think creatively about different ways of, bike share, for example, where there's parking lots way the heck on the outskirts of town, and then there's bike sharing happening where you can come and go, and the sky's the limit. But those are, I don't know if that responds to your question or not, but edible landscaping, right? Those kinds of things, there's a wide variety. So what I'm suggesting is it would be fantastic if a bunch of the skilled experts from IH could come and sit down with all of you, looking at the assets you already have, which are considerable, and that work's been done through Jill. Look at your existing health assets, and then what's next? What might we do together within existing resources?
Thank you.
Any more comments or questions from council? And that resolution that you're talking about is coming up later on our agenda, just so you know. We're moving on to old business.
Under A,
8A.
I'll bring this forward. The public hearing summary for official community plan amendment bylaw number 2072, zoning bylaw text amendment bylaw number 2073, and zoning amendment bylaw number 2074 be received, and that the approving officer be requested to secure a public presentation and cycling corridor through the subject property as part of a future subdivision.
Motion by Councillor Duke, second by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Nixon?
Just really pleased to see that the motion includes securing the public pedestrian and cycling corridor through the property.
Part of our commitment to healthy communities. Any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Item 8B, I move that official community plan amendment bylaw number 2072 receive third reading.
Motion by Councillor Rolando, seconded by Councillor Duke. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Item 8C, I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2073, being a bylaw to include vacation rental use in RR for rural residential 0.4 hectare zoning district, receive third reading.
Motion by Councillor,
I should be leaving during this one because of vacation rental related. That's okay, that's my fault, I'm not catching you before.
You're looking for a second.
Yes, we have a motion by Councillor Ronaldo, seconded by Councillor English. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
No, not
Not yet, okay.
We have one more.
Okay, one more, item 8D. I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2074, being bylaw to allow for vacation rental use, receive third reading.
Motion by Councillor Ronaldo, second by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8E, engineering traffic impact contribution. Anybody would like to do this? Councillor Souls?
I make a motion that the report from the Director of Engineering Development Services dated May 22nd, 2015, regarding the Mutas intersection contributions be received for information. And that the PetroCanada developer, Mr. Bill Hall, be advised that his off-site contribution of $167,112 will not be waived or reduced.
Motion by Councillor Souls, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. In new business, Councillor Hunter?
Sure. Item 9A, I move that official community plan amendment bylaw number 2078 receive first and second readings, and that the public hearing be held at the regular council meeting scheduled on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015 at 3 p.m.
Motion by Councillor Lando, seconded by Councillor English. Is there discussion on that motion? You have a presentation, Mr. Strachan? Did you say it? Okay. All those in favor? Sorry, I'm trying to write myself a note for later on. Okay. What's next on the agenda?
9D, so I'll do that one again. 9D, I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2079 receive first and second readings, and that public hearings be held at the regular council meeting scheduled on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015 at 3 p.m.
Motion by Councillor Ramos, seconded by Councillor English. And now we have a presentation?
Yes, Your Worship.
Presentation.
I'm gonna step up for this too, because it'll go into C as well.
Is this a,
Because this is to do with, this will be to do with vacation rental. Thank you.
this one, yeah, this one does not, it's the next one. Yeah.
Your Worship, we have a rezoning application for 1500 Shield Road to rezone the subject property.
Wait.
We're still on Big Eddy Road.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you were doing a presentation on this.
My apologies.
Sorry, we're still on Big Eddy Road. Yeah, I guess we should bring them back in.
Sorry, I jumped ahead on it.
That's okay.
I didn't think so, I was kind of nervous when the presentation was going up. I mean,
Better safe than sorry.
yeah.
So we are back to the motion, which is Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 2078, first, second reading, and scheduling a public hearing. This is 9A. 9B, sorry. First, second readings, and public hearing. Is there any discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Now
I will
you can
recuse
leave.
myself. That's all good.
hold a rezoning application on
Your
Shield
worship,
Road.
I'll bring forward that the rezoning application submitted by Michael Maloney to rezone Lot 1 Plan EPP 2017 1500 Shield Road from single-family residential district R1 to single-family vacation rental district R1B subzone be supported to proceed with the rezoning bylaw.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor English. And we have a presentation on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transcript. We have a vacation rental rezoning application for 1500 Shield Road. Property owner has applied to sanction an existing vacation rentals that they have within a secondary suite in the home. The subject vacation rental unit has 2 bedrooms. The property owner has indicated that there is adequate parking on site, both within the garage as well as adjacent to the garage inside the carport, as well as 2 spaces in front with additional parking on the side of the building as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. So we have a rezoning application, Shield Road. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? Questions for Mr. Strachan or comments? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Having another meeting? We're at 9D, which is Development Activity Report.
Yes, so I'll move that the development activity report January 1st to April 30th, 2015 be received.
Motion by Councillor Duke, second by Councillor Nixon. Discussion. Councillor Duke.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's motion. You get to go first.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just basically a kudos and exciting news in this report here about how we're up from last year at this time. And if anyone's interested in the development of the community, they can look through this report because it's exciting. And thanks to the development team.
Yes, Councillor Nixon.
I just wanted to add that this doesn't include the upcoming brewery, so this is indeed a very good indicator and good work for Strachan and their team.
Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, at risk of piling on, I have the same comment. Number of building permits issued is 68 versus 26 last year, so that means something. Often the dollar values get skewed if there's one big project, but just that plain number says a lot. And I'd like to focus on turnaround times in the report, just paying attention. So it's great.
I especially like to focus on this council's #1 priority, which is customer service. And again, kudos to the team. Any more comments or questions on this motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Does somebody on the Economic Development Committee want to do this?
Sorry.
Oh,
I'll move motion here that the building permit renewal incentive initiative summary be received.
thank you for Councillor Duke. Motion moved by, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Comments? Councillor Nixon.
This was a really great idea, showed some real initiative and cleaned up a lot of backload. But what's even more important than that is they put a process in place so that this doesn't happen again. So
Very
that's
good.
very good.
Yeah, and it was nice to see a huge amount of building permits get cleaned off our books. People don't have to be concerned about them. And there are still a few that are outstanding, and just encourage people to contact City Hall to have those dealt with. We want to work with the developer, the permit holder to come to a solution that works for everybody. Okay. Any more comments on this motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
I can move F, that the resolution from the Advisory Committee on Healthcare to include language in the terms of reference to indicate the committee will consider activities to promote generational change to create healthy living for all residents in the community be referred to staff.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor English. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Nixon?
Just to repeat that a lot of this work is covered off by the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. And there's nothing wrong with moving in this direction, but I think staff are really overloaded because of the increase in activity. And looking forward to seeing what the staff will come up with as a report on this.
Any more comments, questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried, thank you.
I will move that staff be directed to review the draft bylaw related to backyard chickens and bring the bylaw forward to City Council for consideration.
Motion by Councillor Duke, second by Councillor Nixon. Discussion. Councillor Nixon and then Councillor Randall.
Just this bylaw is sitting with the administration department, and I'm not sure what the holdup is on it, but looking forward to it coming to council.
Just to answer that, it is slated to be coming to the next admin meeting. I know that staff are gathering information from other communities and what they're doing, and also the problems that they are seeing with this. And I'm just concerned about a whole big influx of enforcement, bylaw enforcement. So anyways, it'll be going to administration, and then it'll be coming to council. Councillor Orlando, I don't think Councillor News had your hand up. Councillor Orlando.
Your worship, yeah, that was my comment. I had a chance to touch base with staff, and apparently it's in line to be at the next meeting. So
The next administration meeting.
the next council meeting, I believe, administration and council.
Well, probably it'll go through process. I'm not sure it'll be the next council meeting, probably the one after that.
Okay.
Councillor English.
I just wanted to mention that I was at a Fairware committee meeting this morning and very curious to see what the status of this bylaw is looking forward to working its way through the process.
Any more comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Sewer update memorandum. Gary, would you like to do that?
I'll do that one. Make a motion that the report from the Director of Engineering and Development Services dated May 22nd, 2015 regarding the sewer lagoon odors be received for information.
Secretary, Councillor Nixon. So I'll start this off, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, the number one issue that's going on in Revelstoke right now is the non-working of the sewage lagoon. As I'm sure everybody's well aware, there is a big project that's going on right now with putting in charcoal air filtration in the headworks. The building is torn apart, which has created most of the odor problems. Since the last time this was brought up at council to be talked about, we've had issues with lagoon, the pond number 1, which has I'm not going to say that it's died, but it's probably on its last breath, and its last breath kind of smells a little bit. So I know that staff have been working diligently on coming up with a solution, a long-term solution, and they've met with consultants. They've been trying other things down the lagoons, and I know that Mike can fill in what the actual words are, or what the actual chemical is, but we've been putting things in to try to bring the bacteria back to life, introducing more oxygen into the lagoon to revive it, pumping water from the healthy lagoon into the number 1 pond to try to introduce healthy bacteria into the lagoon, and meeting with some success, but not as much success as we would like. The cooler temperature and the rain the last few days have helped, but it's still not 100%. The headworks program that's being done now, the charcoal filtration, is slated around plus or minus the June 15th date. We should be seeing an improvement because of that, the odor improvement because of that. That still doesn't look at the lagoon pond number 1. And Mr. Thomas, our Director of Engineering, has brought forward a motion that I would like to read, and if you're so inclined to make it, but in conjunction with all of the work that the staff have been doing, coming up with a solution, what they're talking about is bringing in some specialized mixing equipment that will mix all of the product that's in the lagoon, that will hopefully enhance the bacteria that is there and let it thrive. When the bacteria is working, the odors of the lagoon are reduced significantly. I'm not sure if there's any, before I read the motion, Mr. Thomas, I'm not sure if I missed anything in that report.
Your Worship, I think you explained it better than I would in the sense that I would use more technical terms. But
I have no technical terms.
Your Worship, this motion to look at the mixing equipment is something that we've discussed with our engineering consultant, and we've been discussing with several manufacturers of mixing equipment, and this is a solution that's been used elsewhere to deal with this problem.
And I guess I would like to say that this is not a short-term fix. This is a long-term fix that will be added to the lagoon and will be there for as long as we need it. And I'll just read this motion, is that staff be authorized to sole source specialized mixing equipment to improve the treatment process in the lagoons, and that staff be authorized to allocate $120,000 from sewer reserve fund for the procurement and installation of this equipment. I need a motion by Councillor Nixon and seconded by Councillor English. Councillor Nixon.
I just really agree with this motion, Your Worship. This is why we build reserves. I think this has been an offensive problem for that neighborhood. I think staff have, like you said, worked really hard and really diligently and with knowledge to try and find out what the multi-factored problem is. And again, this is why we have reserves. That's what they're for. And I think that neighborhood certainly deserves a solution.
Absolutely. Any more questions or comments? Councillor Orlando.
What is the timeline for procuring the mixing equipment?
Well, I don't mind putting pressure on the Public Works Department. Is that I would like to have a goal of having this here and installed at the same time that the headworks filtration is finished, which is June 15th. So that's why we're doing it this way, because it's a little bit faster, and I just want to stress to the community how important this is to everybody at City Hall. This is the #1 priority. Some people are under the impression that we're doing nothing, when in fact we've been doing lots, and everybody's concerned about it. And so I would encourage council to approve this motion, just so that we can keep moving as fast as possible. That's the goal, is June 15th, and give or take a few days. We'll take a few, we won't give them away. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yes.
Councillor Sells, did you have a question? Any other comments or questions? Before we take this vote, I do want to thank all the staff. I know that they've been taking a lot of flack over this, as has the council, and everybody. This is, like I said, the #1 priority, and I can't stress that enough. And for anybody out there that thinks that the city hasn't been proactive on this, then they're sadly mistaken. All those in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Where are we? Item I. I would like to bring this motion forward for discussion, that the fire chief be approved to issue an invitation to tender for the purchase of a fire pumper truck in accordance with the City of Revelstoke's financial plan for 2015 to 2019.
We have a motion on the floor by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Duke. I have a few comments on this, if council doesn't mind. I met with the chief earlier because I was a little bit surprised that this came to the table, not 100%, and I want to first acknowledge the work that the chief has done, and he did everything exactly the way he's supposed to be doing. We are talking about going out and looking for the best deal on a new fire truck. I guess I was under the impression that we deferred this out for 1 year, and the reason was that I've been asking staff and council to look at re-advertising and reinstating a financial focus group to give us a sounding board for helping us get through the budgetary process. And that is in the works. We are advertising right now, and I'm hoping that very soon we will have that financial focus group in place. Council was a little behind the 8 ball on this previous budget, and the plan now is to get the financial focus group in place, get the budget process started earlier, and to have a budget put together. I'm saying by the end of this year at the latest to approve the 2016 budget. What I would like to do with this year is that to give council and the focus group time to start the budget process, learn more about the issues and the needs and wants of the fire department, start the process of letting the community know that we are looking at our asset management as it pertains to the fire department. The truck that we're talking about replacing is now 30 years old, and that conversation was tried to be started over the last few years. We are starting that conversation, and what I would like to do is I would like council to refer this to the financial focus group and to the budget discussions, and with the idea of this being one of the first priorities of those meetings, so that we can still, if council decides and the focus group and the community is well aware of what we're doing, starts that tendering process sometime by the end of October, whenever it gets around to making that decision. I'm not saying that is what's going to happen, but I'm asking the financial focus group and the budget process to make this one of its first priorities, to look in to see if that's the direction that we're going to be going. That will then come back to council, just like it is right now, for approval and be part of the 2016 budget process. So I guess I'm asking to have this referred out to that financial focus group and budget discussions. And we would need a separate motion for that. Okay, so the process would be is that we would defeat this motion and then make a motion to refer it to those processes that I talked about. Yes, Councilor Nixon.
Just before council votes on this issue, this was discussed at the April Security Committee meeting. Was held at the RCMP building. I was there. And then it came to council in our May minutes. And I don't remember it getting deferred off at our financial budget meetings. Did we just miss doing that?
Well, the impression that I was under through the, but this is a 20, I think it was deferred to a 2016, wasn't it 2017?
Your Worship, there was an item that was, actually there were several items deferred, this was not one of them. There was a water tender that was deferred.
Okay, but it was not this truck.
It was not this truck.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I understood that clearly.
Yeah, and I guess I have to be, like a few other people, apologize, but I did not see it coming through in the minutes. But I guess the message that I would like to send to council and to staff is that when these big items are coming up, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure it goes through the process. I'm not saying that anything bad was done, I'm just saying that it's a big ticket item, and I think that we ought to make sure that we're getting it right. So I talked with the chief, and deferring for a few months while we go through this next process is not really going to affect the timelines that much. And I think that it would add a lot of comfort to council, but I think it also would add comfort to the community, knowing that we are having this extra group having a look at this, and so that's what I'm asking for. So the process that we're going through right now, if council is so inclined, is to defeat this motion and then make another one to refer it, if that's their wish. Does anybody have any questions on the motion of how on the table? Councilor Nixon.
Just one more question, Your Worship, just to be clear for the public. Buying this new truck will improve our bus rating, our fire underwriters insurance rating. Am I correct in that? Good staff.
That's what's in the report, yes.
Okay.
not saying that we're not buying it, I'm just saying that I think we just need a little bit more time to go through it, and that's the impression I was under when we were going through budget discussions. More questions from council? All those in favor of the motion? Against? Motion is defeated. Would anybody like to make another motion? Councillor Nixon.
We'll just refer this to staff to put an abeyance for now till it's reviewed by the financial focus group
And budget discussions.
and budget discussions.
Is that okay with you? Did I add that little couple extra words on it?
Oh.
So I want to be fair.
Okay.
Seconded by Councillor English. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
I'll do the next one, 9J. I move that the City of Revelstoke enter into a new 10-year term lease agreement with the Revelstoke Museum and Archives Association, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign on behalf of the city.
Motion by Councillor Orlando, seconded by Councillor Sauls. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Nixon.
Just this is a good news item. This allows the museum to apply for funding for capital grants because they have a 10-year lease, and it's a really, really good thing for them.
Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, more or less what Councillor Nixon said is a little bit of housekeeping, but mostly it allows them to apply for funding and to update the leases.
I think for those people, the public that haven't had an opportunity to go through the Revelstoke Museum, you're depriving yourselves of a great facility that really tells a good story of our community, and I would just Kathy and the staff are doing an unbelievable job over there, and I really recommend that if you haven't been lately, you should go. So, motion is on the floor. Any other comments? You guys are whispering? No. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
All right, I will move item K. I move that the Public Art Committee's recommendation to move forward with the commissioning of Blowing in the Wind by John McKinnon for installation at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Center be endorsed, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the contract with John McKinnon on behalf of the city.
Motion by Councillor Orlando, second by Councillor Nixon. We have a presentation, and Jackie Pingas has a sample for us. Pretty fabulous looking.
So just a quick update. We had 14 proposals in the end, and 2 calls for entry that we put out. We received concept plans from artists as far away as Toronto, Nelson. It was a really strong field. We narrowed it down to 3 artists, and then we looked at the suitability for the site, safety, and the basic concept design. The Public Art Committee worked extremely hard to get to this point. I think that the drawing that you were presented with does not do justice to the concept. So I'm going to just briefly describe. Imagine a huge rock with 300 to 400 leaves going in a swirl over the rock and going up about 9 feet. So it's going to be absolutely stunning. John McKinnon is actually playing around with getting some coloration on the bronze. So he's getting red and yellow spots in it so they look sort of autumnal as well. So I'm going to pass this down. The leaves are going to be welded in 3 places. He's gone into the safety construction of it. And while you're looking at that, we'll just look at the submission that he made with the work. And this is why we went with him. You'll be very familiar with the bears at the entrance to the city. Who's responsible for those? One that we didn't think would go to Revelstoke yet, but one that in Cranbrook, a public art piece there. He also works in stone, and he has also done some ice carving here. during Spirit Festival. And this was the piece that when we looked at it, we realised that he was able to create movement when creating a sculpture. And when we put the idea of the leaves together with this image, we were really sold on the idea. It's not one in Rosamond. So he is an accredited artist. He has a lot of work in a lot of public spaces. He's a wonderful person to work with. He's incredibly enthusiastic about the project. And as you know, the site is going to be down at the Revelstoke Arts Centre. This is a sketch of his plan of how he's going to bolt it to the rock to make it safe. And it's actually going in the round circle on the bottom right of the plan. And if you've been down at all past weekend, you'll have seen that the colour of the building has changed. We've started to lay out the gardens, and it is proposed that John McKinnon is able to complete this sculpture by the fall if we commission him now. So I respectfully ask your worship and council to approve the motion to have John McKinnon create this wonderful sculpture, which will be a great asset to the town.
And just wanted to comment that the funding for this project is coming through the Reserve Municipality Initiative. And has anybody got any questions? I think it's an exciting project and looking forward to it. Councillor Nixon.
Oh, and just I sit on this committee, I've learned so much from you, Jackie Pendergast, and your group. Just, it's really a joy to work with you, and the amount of due diligence that you gave to all these submissions, and I think it's going to be really a neat project.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. No other comments? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for coming today.
Right. Item L, I move that staff be directed to add the Revy Splash Park Group's proposal to construct a splash park at Farwell Park to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Work Plan, and that the request to consider approval of the project come from the council when the project scope has been defined and the splash park group has secured funding for the project.
Motion by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor English. Discussion, Councillor Randall.
Yeah, basically what's happened here is the pool was decommissioned a few years ago. That was after the parks plan was created, and as you know, there's been a direction to get the splash park going. Staff is requesting some direction from council because to go further and look at sort of the pipes that are in the underground and do some assessment of drainage and other kinds of work that's involved in moving this project forward. It basically takes some staff time, and they feel that it's appropriate at this point to have direction from council before they proceed further on sort of investigating this more intensively.
Councillor Nixon.
I think this is a wonderful idea. That park got decommissioned the last time I heard about a public health inspector being in town.
And you're asking for him to come again?
Yes, I am. But I really caution that this be planned with preschoolers in mind, because I think that's very important, because some cities get really excited and enthusiastic and plan these parks with older children in mind, and then the small preschoolers are very intimidated and don't enjoy it. And I know with the preschooler program being across the street, it's very important to be planned to their needs.
Other questions? Councillor English.
I just would like to make a comment. I think that there are a lot of great splash parks around in some surrounding communities, and just would hope that the staff and the splash park group would endeavor to bring forward a proposal that will suit everybody's needs. Thank you, Councillor Nixon, for talking about the little ones, but we want to make sure that everybody can enjoy a squash boat if it's happening.
And I know that the committee and the Parks and Rec staff have been looking at designs and costing, and I know that during the election, this was a huge hit on my Facebook page, more than anything else. So I think there's a big groundswell of support for this. I think it's a great idea. Just so that everybody's well aware, there probably will be other implications for other departments, and the idea is to start looking, start figuring things out. There will be some staff time that will have to be allocated to this, so let's not kid ourselves, and there may be some issues that Public Works is going to have to deal with, but I think that this is going to be such a big hit for the community and so important that we have to figure out a way to make this work. So I'm looking forward to this unfolding. Any more comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Right, item M, still in parks, that the Rotary Club's application for a special occasion license to host a beer garden for Canada Day celebrations in Queen Elizabeth Park be approved for Wednesday, July 1st, 2015, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., subject to the stated conditions. Should I read the conditions?
No. Motion by Councillor Lando, seconded by Councillor English. Discussion on the motion. I think this is fairly straightforward. All those in favor? Motion's carried.
And the next one, I move that the application from the Revelstoke Glacier Challenge Society for a special occasion license to host a beer garden during the Glacier Challenge tournament in Centennial Park be approved for Friday, July 31st to August 2nd, 2015 from 4 p.m. to midnight, and Monday, August 3rd, 2015 from noon to 4 p.m. subject to the stated conditions.
Motion by Councillor Lando, seconded by Councillor English. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Okay. I'm going to recuse myself on the next one as it involves a grant application for the skate park project.
I'd be happy to make this motion.
Very good, thank you.
That staff be directed to make an application to the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program for the skateboard park redevelopment project.
Motion by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Questions on the motion, discussion? Councillor Duke.
Just a comment that I talked to these guys about this program, and it's quite good. They can be funded up to $500,000. They have to match the funds, of course, but this would be a step in the right direction so they can make it happen.
And I think we're applying for $400,000.
I don't know exactly what they're applying for. The staff would know what that, but I know that they're looking for the program costs around $800,000 for the park. So
And you're only allowed 50%. So.
Yeah.
Any more comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Correspondence. First item is Revelstoke Bearware Society letter. Councillor Nixon.
Can we just refer this to staff because Revelstoke Bearware Society writes a letter and we just want to make sure it doesn't impact on another group in town and the decision that we're making today.
Okay. I guess what, so it doesn't impact another group? And I guess what I would like to see is giving staff the authority to deal with the trees that they can be dealt with, or making sure that they are being looked after one way or another to be bear aware. That's a motion. Yes. So,
Do you want that as a motion, Commissioner?
just so, we're just following, this is just going to be added to this motion that's on there. Have you got something like that? Okay. And, Councillor Nixon moved that. I'm not sure, did you get a second on that? No, sorry. Councillor Solzman seconded the motion. Is there any more discussion on that? Rather than sending the staff, coming back here, if we have problem trees, I would rather we just dealt with it.
Yeah.
Councillor English.
I'd just like to say that, you know, Bearware is very, very interested in helping the city any way they can to minimize contact with bears. They've got a very open door policy and are certainly willing to discuss and advise, and would be happy to do that going forward. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Web quarterly email. Any action anybody would like to take on that? Revelstoke Multicultural Society request for support. Councillor Nixon?
Can we please send a letter of support to support this very worthwhile society carrying on their work in the community? It's one of the best attended.
For the 2016 Revelstoke Carousel Nations,
Yes.
that? Okay. Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor English. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. We have a letter from Mr. Woodhurst of the garbage truck. Councillor Nixon.
Can we please just have staff reply to this, tell Mr. Woodhurst that his feedback is valued, and we are working on the old garbage truck situation.
And hopefully working on a new one.
Yes.
That's what staff will be responding with? Yes. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor English. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. I have one item that I'm not sure if it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a request from the Senior Citizens Housing Society that is asking for council to waive city fees and building permit for work on the seniors affordable housing project. And we have kind of set a precedent with the Affordable Housing Society, and I think that anytime that we are doing anything with any type of affordable housing, I think it's worthwhile for us to do our part and help out where we can. Is anybody inclined to make this motion? Councillor Sull, seconded by Councillor English. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next is communications, and we have the minutes of the Revelstoke Advisory Committee on Healthcare. If anybody would like to make any comments on that. Finance minutes of March 10th. Public Art minutes of March 30th. Parks, Rec, and Culture minutes of April the 14th. Development Services minutes of April 23rd.
Your
Councillor Nixon.
just on the development services meeting, tax exemption bylaws were discussed, and staff will be bringing some options to council to look at this in the future.
Okay, thank you. Check requisition report. Fire Rescue Services month-end report. Parks, Rec, and Culture month-end report. RCMP Community Policing report. Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure letter. Local Government Program Services letter. Questions from the media?
I have one question, Your Worship, and that's with regards to the proposed splash park.
Yes.
Has anyone spoken with the Knights of Pythias with regards to Farwell Park?
Absolutely. That was one of the first meetings that we had because they've played an important role down there, and we are asking if they would like to stay involved.
And are they going to stay involved, Your Worship?
They would like to stay involved.
Okay, thank you.
We're just deciding to what extent they're going to be staying involved down there, because we have a huge capital expense to put for this project, and we are going to be, I'm assuming that with this committee, I would like to stay involved because I think it's so important that there's going to be a huge fundraising aspect to it. But I think that we've had a long relationship with them, and hopefully that will continue.
Thank you.
Any other comments from me, Alex?
Yeah, I've got a few questions about the sewer issue. I think one thing you mentioned, Mark, you said that the sewer lagoon, the first lagoon, is on its last breath. I was wondering if you could just elaborate, like, is it dying or is it?
No, it's a bacteria.
Yeah.
And the bacteria is live and well. It's working, the system is working, and the odor is down to a bare minimum. What's happening for a variety of reasons, the bacteria, or the most of the bacteria, has died. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to revive it by bringing oxygen in, by pumping good bacteria from the other lagoon. So,
Okay. Yeah,
some people don't like my sense of humor sometimes, but we're trying to revive Lagoon 1. And, you know, earlier, I think, late last year, there was a fire in the headworks which took out one of the blowers that puts air into the lagoon. That may have had a long-term effect on the health of that pond. We're not really sure what it was that caused it to falter, but what we're trying to do is everything we can to get it back into a healthy state.
Okay. Yeah, just because that letter from Stephen Horstman, it says, and the report says it's probably, you know, likelihood of just the warmer weather causing the problem. So I'm just wondering, is there other problem? Is that a problem that's not mentioned in the report? Or?
Well, I think it's a culmination of everything. It's not. I don't think it's just one thing. And I don't know, Mr. Thomas, you want to add anything to that? But that's the way that I see it. And I'm not technical.
Your Worship, you're right in the sense that it could, this anaerobic activity that's going on that's causing the odor, it's probably because of the sewer load over the winter that then gets turned over in the spring when the warmer weather happens. So the reason that there's an odor right now is because of the seasonal changes. But this longer period of warmer weather in the spring, or the early spring weather, potentially with the fact that there was we're down to one blower through the winter, may have caused there to be more material that now is being digested anaerobically. Mixing this up will reduce the amount of anaerobic activity and change that to aerobic activity, which is what we want. It doesn't smell nearly as much.
How do you like the technical version better than mine?
That's why.
So the money for this is coming $120,000 from the sewer reserve. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
The bottom line is that sewer, just like water, is a separate utility.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
How much is in the sewer reserve right now?
Your Worship, we're projecting $550,000 approximately at the end of this year in the sewer reserve. So if we take 120 out of that, it takes it down to 430 approximately.
430 left after this expenditure.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Looking for a motion to remove in camera pursuant to section 90.1 C and G of Community